Everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Alonso and Bibbs. We are back from Park City, Utah, where we just attended the 2016 Sundance Film Festival. Between us, we saw more than 20 movies, so we're not going to dwell on each one of them.
Yeah.
We're going to do kind of a quick lightning round. If you want to hear us go into detail about these films, check out our respective podcasts, the B Movies podcast, Linoleum Knife podcast. You can subscribe to both of them for free on iTunes.
Yes.
Where do you want to start?
Let's start with our favorite and give an extra moment or two to eat.
Okay,
what was the best film you saw at Sundance? Bear in mind, I think there's some notable films that everyone's talking about that neither of us saw.
That's true. Yeah. So we didn't see Birth of a Nation.
That was premiering as I was going to the airport.
Right,
unfortunately, sorry about that. And I didn't get to see
the Farting Corpse movie.
Yeah, I didn't get to see the farting corpse of Daniel Radcliffe save a guy on a deserted island.
But we did our best. There's a lot of stuff to cover up there. I'm going to say my favorite movie up there. It's hard to pick because I saw a lot of good stuff. I will say the latest from Whit Stillman, Love and Friendship. It's an adaptation of a short story by Jane Austen called Lady Susan, reuniting him with his stars of The Last Days of Disco, Kate Beckinsale and Chloe Sevigny, and it's about romance and intrigue. And it is very Jane Austen, but at the same time, it's very Whit Stillman in a way that kind of reminds you that Whit Stillman has always been very Jane Austen. Stillman, the director of films like Barcelona and Metropolitan and Damsels in Distress, he has the same sort of interest in kind of romantic mores and the things in society that keep people apart or bring them together, and the way that people can say very revealingly awful things about themselves when they're trying to sound intelligent.
Damn right. I love this movie. It's very, very, very funny. The best movie I saw was a film called Christine. Christine is about Christine Chubbuck, a reporter who killed herself on live television in 1974, and it is just a devastating film about the days, maybe a couple of weeks that lead up to that event. Very few films have really brought me into the mindset of absolute despair the way that Christine did. It plays like a horror movie, but very, very subtly. It's not obviously stabby. Rebecca Hall gives a performance that is right up there with some of the best I've ever seen, and I can't wait for people to see this movie, and I hope it starts some very serious, important, meaningful conversations about mental health, because holy cow, that movie blew my mind.
Wow, all right. Yeah, no, I read the reviews, and I'm sorry that I missed it.
Yeah.
So what else you got?
Let's see, what did I see? I saw a Belgian film called Belgica. Mm-hmm. This is a film from the director of The Broken Circle Breakdown, a movie I liked quite a bit, but this movie unfortunately, this was the worst film I saw at Sundance. It's got a great soundtrack, and it's got a great sense of place. It's about two brothers who open up a really cool nightclub. And yet the actual drama between the two brothers is pretty flimsy, and it's very trite. One of them gives into infidelity and drug use, and the other one's like, I wish you wouldn't do that. And that's kind of it. And so it's kind of thin, but my God, I want to play the soundtrack over and over again. It was really, really cool. What else you got?
So something. I saw an HBO documentary that Lena Dunham produced called Suited that's going to be premiering in April. And it's about a tailor shop in Brooklyn that specializes in making suits for trans men and other people in various places on the gender spectrum. And that's a fascinating topic on its face, but the film, I think, does a really great job of delving into the personal stories of these people and what these suits mean to them, and how wearing clothes that fit you right and that make you look the way you want to look is so much a part of your identity in the world. You know?
Sounds like Stuart Gordon's The Wonderful Ice Cream Suit.
No, because I did not like that movie.
You didn't like that movie?
I did not like that movie.
Oh, man.
No, but I just found it very moving, and the stories that the people tell. I mean, there's a trans kid who's getting a bar mitzvah suit, and the whole thing about, I don't want a bat mitzvah, I want a bar mitzvah. I cried several times. I found it really moving, and it's very beautiful. It's going to be on HBO. It's the kind of film, I think it borrows from reality TV in a lot of terms of the structure, in terms of the backstories of the people, the clients coming into this place, but not in the gross, manipulated way that reality TV has led us to expect. That said, I wouldn't mind seeing this as a weekly show.
Fair enough. I saw Other People. This is a movie from Chris Kelly. It stars Jesse Plemons from Fargo and Breaking Bad as a gay television writer who loses his job, loses his boyfriend, and his mother, played by Molly Shannon, has just been diagnosed with terminal cancer. He moves back home, and it's basically about the worst year of his life. In some respects, this is a Sundance mixtape. It's a whole bunch of Sundance cliches all shoved together at once, but it's very well acted. It's very sweet. It's very funny. I cried. I'm not sure who to recommend it to because it's depressing, obviously. It's about death. So if you're the kind of person who, when you're sad, you listen to sad music, this is the movie for you. If you're the kind of person like me who, when you're sad, you listen to like the soundtrack to Xanadu, not for you. Not for you.
Yeah, somebody on Twitter was saying that there are something like 6 white guy returns to his hometown movies at this year's Sundance alone.
Yeah.
And somehow the idea of Birth of a Nation coming too soon after 12 Years a Slave doesn't make sense. I saw Little Men, which is the, sorry, I need to look up some actor names here, from writer-director Ira Sachs.
And this has nothing to do with Louisa May Alcott.
It has nothing to do with Louisa May Alcott, just the title.
Okay.
He was there a couple years ago with Love is Strange. You may recall that movie with John Lithgow and Alfred Molina. This is another movie about how New York real estate ruins everyone's lives.
Like The Cobbler.
Exactly. Greg Kinnear and Jennifer Ailey play a couple. His father has just died, and they've inherited his walk-up in Brooklyn. And there's a store at the bottom of the house that's been rented out for years by a woman played by Paulina Garcia from the film Gloria. And it's Brooklyn, and it's getting gentrified, and Kinnear realizes that he could be making more money for the store, and he tries to up the rent, and she's, tries to keep saying that his father would never have done that, but, he sort of feels like he's kind of helpless. And then complicating factors is the fact that Garcia's son and Kinnear's son have become best fast friends. And so now the conflict between their parents, kind of brings a toll on their friendship, or at least they try to keep it from happening that way. It's a very understated. What I like about Ira Sachs's movies is that they don't even feel improvised. Like that even feels like it's too much of an effort. It feels like he's catching conversations as they're unfolding, and it's very it feels very naturalist in his sense of drama, and there's a lot of that here.
Sounds good, needs magic shoes. Okay, I saw a German film called Wild. Wild is the story of a woman who on her way to work one day sees a wolf in a local park, gets obsessed with wolves, decides to capture that wolf, put it into her sister's apartment, which she's subletting, and becomes increasingly sexually obsessed with that wolf. It's kind of what you think it is, but then it doesn't go... Arguably, I think it even doesn't go far enough with its concept of the sexualization of animals and the way that we sort of look at animals as sort of this sort of... what's the word I'm looking for? This sort of ideal. We get trapped in the underpinnings of polite society so much that we sometimes miss the natural urges that we have. The movie is sort of intriguing, but I ultimately feel like it doesn't do enough with its concept. It's one of the lesser films, unfortunately, I saw at Sundance.
Yeah, if you're going to make a movie about a woman who wants to have sex with a wolf, then make that movie.
Go for it. Like seriously, run with it. It doesn't go. You would think that sounds like
it's not like you're going to dial it back for a mass audience.
Yeah, exactly. You're already going for a niche. Explore that. There's something to explore there dramatically. It's really interesting, and it pulls back and it ends up feeling a little too much like isn't like contemporary society kind of lame? Yeah. You didn't really need the wolf for that.
Exactly.
So, a bit of a disappointment.
Certain Women is the latest film from writer-director Kelly Reichardt, who I'm a big fan of. She did Meek's Cutoff and Wendy and Lucy. This is another film starring Michelle Williams. It's based on 3 different short stories by an author named Miley Malloy. Set in Montana, it's sort of 3 women. Their stories kind of interlock, but not a ton. Kind of just striving and surviving, basically, trying to get through life. Laura Dern plays a lawyer who has a personal injury client played by Jared Harris, who she's been trying to explain for months that he can't sue his bosses because he already accepted a settlement from them, and he doesn't quite register that until he hears it from a male lawyer, but then he snaps and other things happen. Michelle Williams plays a woman who is building a house out in the country with her husband, and that leads to certain tensions. And then you've also got this is an actress that I was not aware of, but she's amazing. Lily Gladstone plays a woman who works on a horse farm and has very kind of day in day out drudge job. It's always the same thing. And her life is livened up by the appearance of Kristen Stewart, who plays a harried young lawyer who is traveling to this small town to teach a class in school law to teachers. It's a very, Reichardt is a filmmaker who's not afraid of silences, which I like.
Yeah.
Because so many movies now are just wall-to-wall sound. And her actresses convey so much with their faces and with their pauses and with the way that they just are reacting to each other. It's a quiet, delicate movie, but I really like it a lot.
The second best film I saw, and I was amazed I saw a better film than this, is a film called Manchester by the Sea. This is another one of the other big talked about films of the festival. Stars Casey Affleck as a guy whose brother dies, and now he has to come back home, where he has a lot of a big past and really doesn't want to go there. He has to take care of his teenage son. Michelle Williams also stars in it as his ex-wife. This is a movie from Kenneth Lonergan, who did You Can Count on Me and Margaret, movies which are a bit divisive. Some people love them, some people don't. I love Manchester by the Sea. It is an incredible motion picture about real human drama that, I think some people think like, oh, it's going to be like a quiet film full of character. Somehow all the quiet moments are just riveting, actually intense. There's a conversation about frozen meat that was as intense as any action sequence I saw last year outside of Mad Max. It was really great. Casey Affleck gives, I think, his best performance, and that's no small feat. He's a really good actor. This movie is incredible, and I really hope it finds an audience. And it got
picked up by Amazon,
so you will be able to see it.
Yes, exactly. It'll be out there. Spa Night is a directorial debut from an LA filmmaker named Andrew Ahn, who I kind of know from Outfest, so I can't really review the film per se, but it's got a really beautiful sense of place. It's very understated. It's about a young man who is being, still lives at home with his parents. It's a Korean-American family. He sort of put off going to college so that he could help run the family restaurant, and then when that gets shut down, he starts, they start kind of pushing him to go back to school, but he's also grappling with the fact that he is a closeted gay man and begins to find a certain amount of
release,
manifestation of his desires when he takes a job at an all-night Korean spa.
Fun. Hunt for the Wilder People, the latest film from Taika Waititi, who also gave us Eagle vs. Shark and most recently What We Do in the Shadows, which was a great movie. Hunt for the Wilder People is a really great, kind of almost like a kid's movie from the 80s, where there's a lot of silliness but a lot of real danger. It's about this little 11, 12-year-old pudgy foster kid who finally finds the right home, but then the mom dies very, very quickly. That's not a spoiler. And the hunter uncle, played by Sam Neill, is told he can't keep the kid, and so the kid runs away into the New Zealand wilderness, and he runs after them, and by the time they get back, everyone in New Zealand thinks they're public enemy number one. They think he's kidnapped that kid and doing horrible things to that kid, and so they decide, screw it. They just run back into the jungle. The jungle starts teeming with SWAT teams to try to find them. It's very creative, it's very energetic, and it's also just really sweet. The relationship Sam Neill develops with this kid is just really just utterly endearing, but not in a way that feels trite or pat in any way. It's just a damn good movie. Probably the most outwardly entertaining film I saw at Sundance, and I saw some of the more genre-related stuff as well.
Well, that one got picked up as well. So
yes, it did. So see that. That's going to be great.
I saw Goat, which is a much-anticipated film starring Nick Jonas and Ben Schertzer from that British film Pride. He was one of the best things in that movie. And it's based on a memoir. It's about fraternity hazing, and I know it's been knocking around for a while. At one point, David Gordon Green did an adaptation, but this final version was done by the current director, whose name I'm currently forgetting. Sorry about that. Anyway, Schertzer plays the younger brother of Nick Jonas, who is a frat guy in this college. The summer before his freshman year, Schertzer is carjacked and attacked by these two guys. Still wants to go through fraternity rush, but obviously starts having kind of PTSD-related flashbacks as things get more and more violent. It's an interesting movie. I think it has some things that I hope they can maybe do another edit on it and fix as far as character motivations and explanations. But the performances by Schertzer and Jonas are really good. The hazing scenes are very intense and felt realistic. I mean, I never went through it myself, but it doesn't seem beyond the pale. And it's beautifully shot, very kind of disturbing score. I liked it a lot.
Okay, I saw a film from Anne Fontaine called Agnes Day. This is a movie that takes place right after World War II, where a convent full of nuns is having to hide out because during the war, immediately thereafter, they were attacked, and now a lot of the nuns are pregnant, and they have to hide their shame. But it's actually the story of the female doctor who is brought in, and she wants to help, but she can't for a variety of reasons. For example, their vow of celibacy means they can't be touched. Is really, on some respects, it feels like an Oscar bait movie, but it's very intense and it's very suspenseful. An actress whose name I'm going to bungle, who was in Ida, called Agata Kulesa. I think that's about right.
Yeah.
She plays the Mother Superior who has to make some unthinkable choices, and it's very good old school serious drama that really riveted me. I say riveted twice. That's how much.
No,
it was good.
I heard good things about it. I saw the documentary Author, the Jt Leroy Story. I can't even begin to explain the Jt Leroy story. Google Jt Leroy hoax, and you'll find out. But basically, this a middle-aged woman passed herself off as a runaway teenage HIV positive child of a former prostitute, and wrote these supposedly autobiographical stories that were greatly acclaimed, and then the whole thing was kind of uncovered. There was a great documentary about this very subject last year called The Cult of Jt Leroy, which was told in a more sort of third-person journalistic style. This one, Laura Albert is the subject of the film. She's on camera a lot. Pretty much the entire thing is told from her perspective.
But she's a liar.
But she's a liar. She is like our most famous unreliable narrator. So you have to kind of take that stuff with a grain of salt. Obviously, with her involved in the movie, you get a lot of juicy insider stuff, like all these phone conversations. She recorded all the phone conversations with everybody. So not just JT's therapist, but like Gus Van Sant, because JT Leroy I think has a story credit on Elephant. With Courtney Love, all these stars that got very involved with JT and were big fans. So that stuff is interesting, and Albert's perspective is interesting, and it's interesting to hear. But at the same time, I think you really need to see both documentaries to get the full story, because you really can't trust Laura Albert's version of events, because of course she's going to tell them in a way that makes Laura Albert look as as blameless as possible.
I only saw one documentary. It was, lo and behold, Reveries of the Connected World, the new film from Werner Herzog,
which also got picked up,
in which Werner Herzog tackles the internet, whole damn thing. Whole internet, every single aspect, everything from the birth of the internet to internet addiction to solar flares to our eventual trip to Mars to cars that drive themselves, everything. And as a result, it's hard to feel completely satisfied by it, because he's really casting a very wide net. He doesn't really come to much of a conclusion. It's basically, think about that. And I will, because it's stuff to think about. It's interesting. It's thought-provoking. I wish it had felt more cohesive. I wish that it felt like there was a particular reason why we looked at only these particular elements of the internet, because even though there's like 10 chapters with different focuses, there's so much more to explore. Sure. But it's definitely worth saying is very interesting.
Cool.
Okay.
And then the last thing I saw, you and I both saw, is A Cemetery of Splendor, the latest from Thai filmmaker Apichatpong Veerasathakul.
You love being able to pronounce that correctly.
It took me a long time to learn it. He won the Palme d'Or at Cannes a couple years ago for Uncle Boonmee, Who Can Recall His Past Lives. This movie is maybe not as strong as Uncle Boonmee, because I think that film operated in a way that even if you weren't familiar with Veerasathakul's other films or with the larger issues of kind of Thai mysticism, you could still grab onto it. This one, I definitely felt like there were cultural signposts that I couldn't read and wasn't getting. But that said, it's gorgeous. It's hallucinatory. It's a film about sleep in a lot of ways, so it's hard to kind of not nod off. And if you do, it feels interactive,
This film was very interesting. I'd never seen one of his films before. I've missed Uncle Boonmee. I will get to it. Everyone tells me it's amazing. But yeah, it really keeps you at a distance if you're not immediately familiar with what's going on. It's hard not to think that it's interesting, but there's never a moment where they actually just explain what the thingies are.
Sure, and it's the kind of movie that you have to sit back at some point and go, all right, movie, you take point, I will just follow where you want to go, and whether or not I totally get where we're going, there's enough things for me to look at and listen to that I'm okay with.
I look forward to this film coming out so I can read like some articles by people who actually know what it's really tackling, so that I can get sort of a Cliff's Notes to it.
Well, Strand has it, so it should be opening this year.
I saw 3 more films I'm going to burn through as fast as I can. Todd Solondz's new film, Wiener-Dog, is a quartet of short tales, one of whom about a boy with very manipulative parents, one of whom about Don Wiener, his character from Welcome to the Dollhouse, who is now played by Greta Gerwig, and that's really distracting. One of whom another character is a sort of exasperated film professor played by Danny DeVito, and finally a crotchety retiree played by Ellen Burstyn, and all of their stories are connected by the presence of the same dachshund, who is adorable. And if you know anything about Misery Merchant, Todd Solondz's movies, you know you probably shouldn't get too attached to that dog. These movies are very depressing, but there's something sort of inspiring about how depressing Todd Solondz can be sometimes.
But is it funny?
It is sometimes very, very funny. It's sometimes very, very sad. Usually it's very, very sad. You know, you're crying through your not tears because you're just almost mad at him for making you so sad. I think your mileage is going to vary. My favorite installment was the Danny DeVito installment. That was some people's least favorite installment. As with any anthology, it's a little hit or miss. But if you can handle a movie that's trying to push your sad buttons, this is good. I think it's a good movie. Okay. And lastly, I saw 2 midnight movies. These are the more genre-oriented films at the festival. I saw Rob Zombie's 31. It's The Running Man, but with killer clowns.
Okay.
That's it.
We needed that.
If you're a Rob Zombie fan, this will hit all your buttons. If you're not a Rob Zombie fan, unfortunately, this will hit all your buttons. It is violent. It is caked with filth. It is gross. For what it's worth, I sometimes like Rob Zombie's movies, and I thought this one was mostly a good time in a very violent, sadistic way. But it's not his best work by any stretch of the imagination. So if you're looking forward to it, you're going to get what you want. If you're not looking forward to it, stay away. And lastly, I saw Kevin Smith's Yoga Hosers, which some people are calling like the worst movie ever made. And I'm like, you haven't seen a lot of movies. This movie stars Kevin Smith's daughter, Harley Quinn Smith, and Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose Depp, as their characters from Smith's last film, Tusk.
Is it better than Tusk?
It's so much better than Tusk.
Okay, then it's not the worst movie ever made.
I really reacted very negatively to Tusk. Like, I really hated Tusk. But Yoga Hosers is sillier. It's more vibrant. It's more alive. A lot of the jokes don't land, but the tone is very fluffy. The tone is very enjoyable. And fortunately, Lily Rose Depp, and honestly, particularly Harley Quinn Smith, are really fun performers. They're very likable. They're very natural. They have good comic timing. It's a silly, dumb movie. I think Smith himself, I interviewed Kevin Smith and I said, you've made a very silly film. And he's like, no, I made a fucking stupid film. So he knows what he's doing. This reminds me a little bit more of Clerks, the animated series, if that works for anybody. It's just very broad, very ludicrous. I think there are going to be people who are smoking up a doobie who are really, really going to love it. And I think there are people who want a certain amount of grounded anything in their movies, and they're going to really respond negatively to it. For what it's worth, again, I had a good time with this very dumb film.
All right, so that's our recap for our brief days at Sundance. Like we said, for more in-depth discussion, check out our podcast, and thanks for watching.